Hello and welcome to Intro to Genealogy, presented by the Lane Public Library. My name is Brad Spurlock. I'm the librarian for the Cummins Local History Room at the Hamilton Lane Library, and today I'm going to teach you how to research your family's history. So let's start with what is genealogy. Genealogy is the study and tracing of lines of descent, and the overall goal of genealogy is to establish links or relationships between family members. So how do we go about doing this? Through research and finding records that give you certain types of information, and you can use that information to link family members together, and you can do that all the way back. So because genealogy is a form of history, what we use is called historical analysis when doing genealogy, and that is simply examining evidence to come up with an understanding of the past. Evidence is the key here. Any claim that you make while doing your genealogy should be supported by some sort of record or document or something like that you've located along the way. There are some things that we need to keep in mind when we're doing genealogy. One is historical perspective. People in history had a different view of the world than we do today. Sometimes that can come out in the records that we find. You can see by my little illustration down here in the corner. One person's happy to see a land, but the other person's happy to see a boat. Everybody has different perspectives. Biases, now that could be intentional or unintentional. You can see the two different newspapers from Hamilton's history, the Daily Republican News and the Hamilton Daily Democrat. There's different viewpoints, different opinions that are held by people. And again, that's something else that can come out in records from the past when we're examining them. Accuracy, sometimes we do run into accuracy issues with records also. You'll especially find this with ages of people tend to change sometimes when they shouldn't, things like that. Obviously this graphic here of the crossing of the Delaware is historically accurate. And then assumptions. So sometimes we have to make assumptions when doing genealogy. Sometimes the records just are not present to support the claims that we are making. When you get to that point, whatever assumption you make should be based on some sort of documents or something like that. So sources. As with any field of history, sources are extremely important. There are two different kinds of sources, primary and secondary. A primary source is recorded at the time an event happened or with first-hand knowledge of that event. A secondary source, on the other hand, was recorded after the fact of an event and or with second-hand knowledge. So that begs the question, what's a newspaper? Because a newspaper is usually recorded after an event happens, but with using first-hand knowledge of the event. So honestly, it could be both. It could be neither. It's up to the person who's finding it, how they want to use it, things like that. So in this example, the letter written from a Civil War battlefield is a primary source. The book about the Civil War battlefield is a secondary source, and the newspaper about the fighting that had happened could go either way. Citations. Now, a citation is simply a listing of a source used to support a historical fact or claim. So there's a million different ways you can do this. Some people like to use endnotes or footnotes. Some people like to do in-text citations. There's a bunch of different standard formats you can use. But what it comes down to is just letting people know who are reading your genealogy later where you found information. That's the main point of this. So what is a record? It's a vinyl LP, right? Record. In this sense, a record is a piece of evidence providing information about the past. So this is what we're really looking for. And this is also kind of a generic term that encompasses any kind of information form we find. So there's a bunch of different record types. As you can see here, birth, marriage, divorce, federal census, state census, draft registration, enlistment, so on and so forth. All of these different types of records will provide different types of information. They will be accessible on different databases from different sources, in print in different places, but the goal is for you to find as many of these as you can for one particular individual. Write out and record all the information that you have on that individual. Use that information to find that person's parents, so on and so forth. In addition to there being a bunch of different types of records, there's also different formats that records come in. They can be in book format, family histories, or even family Bibles a lot of times will have genealogy charts in them, things like that. Paper format, so these are usually loose file folders, loose papers, different kinds of vital records especially. You also find them in ledgers, especially when you start going back into history. You might find indexes for deaths, births, marriages, things like that. Photographs. Photograph collections are held by many libraries. Also, you can find them in many different family collections. A lot of times there's things written on the back of them that'll say who people are. And then lastly, film. Film can be audio, video, or microform. Audio and video are a little more difficult to find for families usually. Usually those never leave the family archives. Microform, on the other hand, it's composed of microfilm, which is what you see on the screen here, the roll, reel, and microfiche, which are flat cards that you can put on a reader. This is a primary medium used to record vital records, newspapers, all kinds of things like that. It was one of the most popular forms of recording information in the past. That was just physical. We also have digital record formats. This includes digitized documents and books or born digital documents and books. The difference being born digital, it's something that was made on a computer. Digitized, on the other hand, is something that started life in physical format and was scanned into a computer. We also have digital audio, digital photographs, digital video, and then electronic media, which is just kind of an all-encompassing term for social media as well as websites, all kinds of things like that. So then we get to an abstract. An abstract is simply a summary of a record compiled after the creation of the original record. So, let's take this 1940 census here. The actual document was used to compile what you see on the screen here. Somebody who works at Ancestry went through and made out this abstract. And the purpose of this is to make it easier for their databases and make it easier for you to locate information. However, you should always look at the original document. There might be information in the original document that was not recorded in the abstract. There may be information in the abstract that was misrecorded or incorrectly recorded. So you always want to hit that click view button there to see the original. An index. An index is simply a list of the location of information. There are many different types of indexes. As you can see here, this one is the State of Ohio Death Index on the top left. That is, all it will do is simply list what county the person lived in or died in, what their last name was, what their first name was, what their middle initial, and then they might have a bunch of different codes for different things that were used by the state, and then it'll have a date. So these can be useful for helping you find other information because it might tell you when somebody died and where somebody died. And as we'll talk about later, when and where are two of the primary things you need to know when doing genealogy for individuals. But usually you shouldn't stop with just the index. Once you find an index and it tells you where to find other information, you should probably try to go and find that other information because it will give you more than what this will give you. There's also online databases, as you can see in the top right, Ohio Obituary Index. This is from the Rutherford B. Hayes Presidential Library, but you can find these a lot of other places. Dayton Metro Library has a really good one for people who lived in that area, things like that. So this is kind of a database. What you'll do is type in a name or any other information you know into a search engine and hit search, and it should pop up a result that looks something like this. You also find what's called index-only records, like in the bottom right here. That is from an Ancestry.com search. What this means is the worker at Ancestry typed this out into their database from the original record, but the original record was not recorded on Ancestry. So these you just have to kind of trust, but you also have to kind of view them with a critical eye to make sure that the information in them is accurate. And then, of course, you just have the primary type of index that people think of from the back of a book in the bottom left. So misspellings, alternate spellings, and names. This is something that will drive you crazy when you're doing genealogy. As you can see here, we have the name Alyssa Belden. We have Elizabeth Potter, Lizzie P. Belden, Elsia Belden, and Lizzie Potter. This was all the same person. She went by different names at different times. She was married, so her maiden name changed to her married name. You find this a lot, especially the misspelling part. Another thing you'll run into is names that have been anglicized. So people have come over from Europe or any other country or continent, and they've made their names sound more English or sound more American. That was a common practice. So you might see something like Schmidt become Smith. So be aware of that. Handwriting is another deal. Sometimes records can be extremely hard to read. Sometimes they won't even be in the same language, which we'll talk about in a minute. One tip that I can give you on trying to understand handwriting is to print out the document you're trying to read, a copy of it, and trace it with your own hand. Sometimes when you do that, the muscle memory along with trying to interpret it will let you know what has actually been written on the page. So language and dialects. You might find things that are in foreign languages, especially if you get back across an ocean. Likely they're going to be speaking a different language wherever your family ends up. This right here is an example from the Cummins Local History Room collection. It's from the St. John's Church records. This was in German. We went to have it translated, and the person who's going to do the translating told us that they could not translate this because it was an antiquated form of German. So you also run into issues like that. Transcriptions. So a transcription is when somebody basically types out another document. So as you can see here, on the left you have the original document. It's actually a photograph of the original document. And then on the right you can see that somebody has typed this out by hand. And this is also from the Cummins Room collection. It was a school contract, I'm pretty sure. But when things have been transcribed, you should always look at those critically also and make sure that the words that have been typed out are actually the words that are from the original document. So dates and locations. Dates and locations are the two biggest things you need to know when you're trying to find somebody, or the two biggest things you should look for when you're trying to find somebody in your family history. Dates will give you the time period that you need to search in. Every record database has a date on it, or most of them do, a date range to tell you, so if the person died in 1905, they're not going to be in a record database that runs from 1950 to 2000 or something like that. Sometimes average life expectancy can be used to estimate these dates. There's always going to be the outliers, the people that died young or the people that died very old. But there are websites you can go on where you can find what the average life expectancy for people at a certain time period were, and you can use that to estimate when they lived or when they died. Also, the 20-year rule, that's something that I use when doing genealogy. So basically this means that every 20 years there's a child in a family, roughly. So, or as people turn 20 is around the time they have a baby. So if you have somebody's birth date and you're trying to find their parents, maybe plug in the last name of the person and maybe go back 20 years from their birth date and search that and see if it gives you any hits. Sometimes that'll work, sometimes it won't, but it's just a tip that you can try. Locations. So geographic location is a big deal when you're doing genealogy. If you're looking for someone who lived in Kentucky, you're not going to try to search a Missouri record database or something like that. So again, if you can pinpoint the location where a family is from, it makes it easier to search for records because you know where you're looking. So recording family genealogies, there's basically two options. I mean, there's a million other things you can do if you want to. One of them is pedigree charts. This is probably the most popular. A pedigree chart is simply your name, your parents' names, their parents' names, their parents' names, so on and so forth. Direct lines, direct bloodlines. That's what a pedigree chart is. Family trees, on the other hand, include everybody. Uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, whatever. They're all included in a family tree. So these are the two primary ways that we see that genealogies are recorded. But like I said, there's a million other ways you can do it. There's also several computer programs that can be used to do it. It's really up to you, whatever you prefer. All right, so now we're going to get into the actual searching. So first of all, what is a database? A database, in the sense where we're using it, is any searchable online repository of records. So there are many, many examples of databases, but it's just a source of records. Searching. So when you're searching, a search engine is the program that searches a database to find the information that matches your search criteria. I know this might get a little complicated for some of you, but please, if you have any questions or anything like this, let us know. We'd be happy to walk you through it or help you with it in any way. So as you can see here, where it says first and middle names, last name, place your ancestor might have lived, birth year, this is an example of a search engine. This is actually from Ancestry.com. So what you'll do is type into those boxes your search criteria, and those are simply the terms that you're entering. So how should you do this, or what's the best way to do this? That's where refining searches comes in. So your initial search, the first one you run, that should be neither too specific nor too broad. So maybe search for Clark Lane and put Butler County, Ohio, and maybe just a decade range for year or something like that. And then hit search. If you still don't find anything, try to broaden your search. So maybe leave first name blank and only put Lane as the last name. Maybe only put Ohio in the search bar down here. And maybe leave birth year blank and hit search and see what you find. You might be surprised. Sometimes less information gives you more hits. Or you can try to restrict your search, which would be Robert Clark Lane, Hamilton, Butler County, Ohio, with an exact year of birth. You can try that and see if that will work. Sometimes more information is what they need. But honestly, you should probably try a combination of these. Broaden it, restrict it as you need to until you find the information you're looking for. So now we're going to talk about a couple specific databases. One of these is Ancestry.com. This is the primary database that we use when doing genealogy at the library. To access this, which you can do for free, but you have to be in one of the library's locations, or you have to be on your personal laptop on one of the library's Wi-Fi hotspots. So we'll go to lanepl.org, which is our website. From there, you want to go under Research and Databases. Scroll down and click on Genealogy, and then here we go, Ancestry Library Edition. So there's two different kinds of Ancestry.com. The first is the paid version that you can subscribe to on your own. The second is Ancestry Library Edition, which we subscribe to so that you can use for free, but again, it's in library use only. They have the same records on them, just about. The only difference is you can't create family trees on the library edition where you can on the paid private edition. So just hit begin searching here. And right here is our search engine. You can type in your search criteria into these boxes and hit search, and it will give you a listing of records. Another thing you can do is click on Card Catalog up here in the top right corner. And this will give you a list of specific databases, and you can search that by title or keyword. So let's say I have ancestors that live in Ohio. I can type in Ohio in keywords and hit search, and it should give me results that contain hits for the word Ohio. So all of these databases here should theoretically have people listed from Ohio in them. If we go back out to the main page here, we'll just do a quick search here. We'll do Clark Lane, and we'll do Butler County, Ohio. Now, if you see it's suggesting what to type here, go ahead and click on it when it pops up, so that way it's formatted the exact way they want it formatted, and hit search. There's all kinds of records that pop up here. One of them is a Civil War draft registration. We can click on that. So what we're seeing here is our abstract. And like I said before, what we want to do is always look at the original record. So we'll click on View. And here's the original record. And over here on the right, you can zoom in or out as you need to. And then also up here where it says Save, you can click on that and hit Save to this computer, and it should download that. So you can save it. And then just hit the back button to get back out. Another database that we like to use is FamilySearch. This is a free website you can go on. You do have to have a free account now. You did not used to, but now you do to access it. But like I said, they don't charge for the account. For that, you can just go to FamilySearch.org. From there, it will prompt you to sign in. I've already signed in on here just for the sake of this video. We hit Search and Records, and that brings us to this database right here. From there, let's type in our search. And we'll hit Search. And as you can see, we are coming up with hits again here. In this instance, you can click on a name, and you will see the abstract right here, and then the original document will be right here to click on. And this looks like it is a 1940 census for Ross County, Ohio. So if we want to do the database search like we did on Ancestry, we'll go back to search and hit records, except you can search right here under Find a Collection. We'll type in Ohio, and in this circumstance it will auto-populate the list with different databases for Ohio. So let's try Ohio deaths. And we'll do Clark Lane. And we'll hit search. And this isn't the Clark Lane, but we'll click on this one. And again, you can see right here the abstract, and we can click on the original image. And it will pull up death certificate for this person. Oftentimes, newspapers can fill in gaps that are left by other vital records, so the records you find on Ancestry and FamilySearch, they may not give you a complete picture. However, you can use databases like NewspaperArchive here to find stories or articles or obituaries or anything like that that might give you information about an individual or an event they were involved in. You can access NewspaperArchive at home through our website. However, you do have to put in your library card number to get access to it. To access our database, go to our website again, which is www.lanepl.org. You'll go into Research and Databases, Genealogy, and then NewspaperArchive, which is right here. As you can see, we have the Ohio-only version. You can subscribe to national and international versions of this elsewhere. You can do one of two things on the front screen here. You can do a name search or a keyword search. We'll do a name search in this instance, so let's put in Clark Lane. We'll hit search. It's going to list 309,000 results because we're looking at the entire state of Ohio. So what we're going to do is select United States and hit refine. Select Ohio and hit refine. And then we're going to hit Hamilton and hit refine again. Now, we picked Hamilton because it's the largest city with newspapers. So if you're searching for a small town or something like that, you may want to search for the closest large city. Now, this is our results page. As you can see, this gives you a little abstract right here. Sometimes this won't be legible. This is part of the computer's attempts to identify text within the newspaper. So we'll click on the image to pull up the actual paper. And right here we have a newspaper article. It gives information on his death. If you want to save this, we'll hit the little floppy disk logo up here and hit Save as PDF. And you should see that download. You can go back and refine your searches if you need to, broaden, restrict your searches, same as you would on Ancestry or FamilySearch. Okay, our next database is Fold3, which is owned by Ancestry. Again, this is a database you can access at home, but you do have to put in your library card number. This is a database of military records. So if you're looking for military records on individuals or units, this is a good place to check. So again, we'll go to lanepl.org. We'll do Research and Databases, Genealogy, and Fold3. Okay, now on the main screen here, you can see that you can search by war or non-military record on the left-hand side. Or up here, you can put in a name or a keyword. So we'll type in a name and hit search. You can see that there's going to be a bunch of different hits. A lot of these are not the people that we're looking for. And this is still loading, so we'll give that a second. Okay, so because it is loaded, I know the person I put in is a Civil War veteran from Hamilton. We'll check Civil War. And we'll click on the first link here. You can see you get a little bit of an abstract. And here's the original record. It'll list information about what unit the person served in, sometimes their next of kin, and this appears to be a pension form. We can hit back and see what else we can find. Sometimes you have to scroll a little bit to find other records. You also see like these memorials here. If we click on one, this is like a profile on Fold3 that's been put together based on records that they have. So this one says Ohio, 135th National Guard, Infantry, Company B. That just tells you what they know about this person from records. These are usually not all-inclusive, not comprehensive, but they can help with your research. Another thing that I have found that works well is if you have a service number for the person, if you type that in up here and then limit it to war or whatever, that will also give you some good hits. But Fold3 is an extremely useful database when you're doing military genealogy. Okay, and the final database that we're going to go over is findagrave.com. This is just a website you can go on from anywhere. You do not need an account or anything, so we'll just click on the link here. It's going to pull up a search engine in the front. You can type in whatever you want to there. So again, we'll go back to Clark Lane. Let's say we don't know what year he was born or died. We'll leave that blank. And then we'll just put in Butler County, Ohio. Again, you should always click on what it suggests so it's properly formatted, and then we'll hit search. And right here we have an entry for him, so we'll click on that. We can see his portrait, and then we can get a little bit of a bio. Now, not all entries in Find a Grave have a bio like this. All of them will have this information up here, but some of it may be unknown. There is a photograph of his headstone. You will find that in most of the entries on Find a Grave, but not all of them. You can request that pictures of headstones be taken. Find a Grave is unique in that it is user generated. So all of the content on Find a Grave is put together by individuals. Now that sometimes can lead to inaccuracies or issues like that. So everything that you see on here should be verified. That being said, sometimes if there is a photograph of the headstone, you can use the headstone to verify the other information. So if they're claiming that this is the date of birth and this is the date of death, we might be able to click on the picture of the headstone, and if we hit View Original and zoom in, we probably can read the date of birth and date of death, which then verifies the claims that have been made on the actual entry here. So again, findagrave.com is a really good resource to use, but use this one with a critical eye, and make sure you verify any information that you find in here. Okay, once you've exhausted all of the online databases and resources you have access to, you may want to try libraries, archives, museums, and other similar institutions. Institutions like this are usually geographically based and hold materials unique to that geographic region. There's a lot of good information that can be found in these types of institutions, and a lot of it is probably not online. This is a picture of the Cummins Local History Room. It's on the 4th floor of the Hamilton Lane Library. We are an institution like this. We have a lot of different pieces of information on Butler County's history and the residents here. We have genealogy records, including cemetery, birth, death, marriage, things like that. We have the city directory collection. We have school yearbooks, the histories of several of the industries that were in Hamilton, and really Butler County, not only Hamilton, and other types of historical information. So any kind of institution like this that's local to wherever your family is from or wherever you're researching is an excellent resource to contact when you're trying to find genealogical information. Okay, and thank you very much for watching this webinar. If you have any questions, please contact us. We're always happy to help. We also will do requests for free. We don't do complete family trees, but besides that, we can find links that you're missing or try to find any kind of particular information you need or anything like that. If you'd like to contact us, we are located at 300 North 3rd Street in Hamilton, Ohio. Our phone number is 513-894-7156, or you can email me directly. My email address is b.spurlock@lanepl.org. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this webinar.